Enough nonsense. Some of you are standing. I'm not going to keep you here real long. I know a lot of you are here because you're interested in Nebraska football or Nebraska athletics. And so I thought I'd just reflect with you on a little bit about the culture. I'm sure this store, this institution has a culture, and every organization does. It sort of has to do with leadership. You know, who the leaders are, how they behave, what they believe in really begins to reflect on the culture. And so over a period of 50 years, going back to 1962 to now 2012, many people in Nebraska don't realize this, but Nebraska football has the best winning percentage, the best winning record of any school in the country. Better than Alabama, better than Oklahoma, better than any place else. And so when you think about a state with 1.8 million people and not always the best weather and no beaches and no mountains to recruit to, there must have been some things going on that might have made a difference. And so a book was written about 5-6 years ago by a guy named Mike Babcock. And Mike interviewed 38 players who had played at Nebraska, mostly for me, and interviewed a bunch of assistant coaches that had been there for a long period of time. And so it wasn't me writing the book. When I write the book, I can make myself sound either pretty good or pretty bad. So this was really kind of a story by the employees, so to speak, about Kohll's, about, in this case, Nebraska football, the players. And so what they mentioned was this. They said, first of all, they felt that there was a lot of honesty. You know, there was a time back in the 60s and 70s when there was a lot of stuff that was pretty illegal. It wasn't little stuff. It wasn't tattoos. It was cars and clothes and cash. The big stuff. And I remember one time we lost to one of those teams that was going after it pretty good. And coaches came in, they said, you know, Coach, we can't beat them, maybe we better join them. And I told them, you know, we're committed to principle. One thing we will not do is we will not break any rules. And you might get fired, but we're going to go down with at least integrity and tact. And so that's the way we did it. And the coaches said, the players said that they were never promised anything by Nebraska except an opportunity. And then in more recent years, it wasn't cars and clothes and cash, but it's promises of playing time. You know, you're so good, you're going to come in and you're going to start for us at right guard. As a freshman, you're so good, we're going to change our offense for you or our defense. He said, you know, we never had a promise like that. And so we lost some guys because we wouldn't tell them what they wanted to hear. I think we lost the right ones for the most part, and the right ones came. Second thing that they mentioned that seemed to be important was they felt cared for. We knew their names. Now you say, well, that's no big deal. But there's 150 of them, and we knew their names. And I spent a little bit of time down in the weight room every day. You can see it didn't work with me, but it helped the players. But when I was down there, I talked to 4 or 5 guys every night. A few minutes, we talk about their academics, we talk about their family, talk about their high school football team, maybe talk about an injury they had. And so I got to know them pretty well. And they felt that we cared about them. Whether it was a first team or a fourth team player, almost universally they said we felt these guys really cared about us as people. And that was important. So I think if you're running an organization, it's important that people feel that they're cared for as individuals, that they're not pawns on a chessboard, they're not pieces that are moved around and manipulated to get you what you want. And so that was kind of a big deal with those players. Third thing that they mentioned was the fact that it was a positive environment. Now you think of coaching, of a guy out there hollering and screaming and swearing at people and tearing them down. And so Lou Holtz, you see Lou on television a lot now. Lou has all the answers now that he's on television. But at one time he was a coach, and he didn't have all the answers. And he was coaching down in Arkansas, and he called me up and he said, you know, this was during the season. I never had a coach call me during the season and ask to come up and visit. I'd had him come in during spring ball or the winter or summer, never during the season. And he called and said, I'd like to come up and visit. And I said, okay, Lou, come on up. He was there for 2 days. He went to practice. He went on, sat in our meetings. And before he left, he said, you know, the one thing that jumped out at me about this place was how positive your coaches were. So I didn't hear negativism. I never heard anybody get torn down. And he said, well, that's good, Lou. That's kind of my intention. And you may say, well, where'd that come from? Well, I spent some time in graduate school, and I found out that the best way to change human behavior is not to criticize, not to humiliate, not to tear down, but the best way to change human behavior is to catch somebody doing something right and to reinforce it and to praise it. And so that was the deal. It didn't mean that if somebody made a mistake, we didn't correct it. But rather than saying, you know, Smith, you dropped your head, you missed the tackle, you're the dumbest player I've ever had, you're going to get hurt, and I hope you do. Instead of saying that to him, we say, you know, Smith, we've seen you do it right 1,000 times. Keep your head up, and lock your arms, drive your feet. That's what we're looking for. And the next time Smith does it right, you really emphasize that he made a perfect tackle. And so that was important to us. And so the players said it was a positive environment. And then I guess 2 last things I'll mention that seem to be important to them. How you handle adversity. This is true whether you're running a business or just running your own personal life. Adversity is part of the human experience. Part of athletics. You can't avoid it. Bad things are going to happen. And when it happens, the question is how you react to it. There are basically 3 ways, I think, that people react to adversity. One is to quit. You know, I've been passed over for promotion now 3 times. I need the paycheck, so I'm still going to show up at work. But I'm not going to lay it out there and try to be the best I can be because I've been passed over. Or I've tried out for cheerleader 3 years in a row now and haven't been selected, so I'm going to quit. Or I've asked her out for a date now several times. I've been turned down, and so I'm going to quit asking her out. And furthermore, I'm done with women, period. I quit. So you can quit, you know. Second thing you can do, which is really common in our culture, is you can point the finger. Not my fault I was passed over. You know, the boss plays favorites. Not my fault I flunked the class, had a bad teacher. Not my fault I'm not the starting quarterback. The coach just has it in for me. You point the finger. And then the third thing you can do, if you think about it, and it's very hard to do, it's easy to talk about, but the one thing you can do that makes a difference is to look at adversity as an opportunity. And so I'll give you a couple examples. The first 5 years I was the head coach, we played Oklahoma, we lost to Oklahoma. That was not very popular in Nebraska to do that. And there was folks talking about, well, maybe we better get a different guy. Somebody can beat Oklahoma. We might win 10. If we lost to Oklahoma, we had a bad year. And so it was painful. But we looked at those films, and we looked at them, and we looked at them. We began to realize that we had some guys, quarterback, could throw the ball. They were drop back guys, couldn't run a lick. We saw Oklahoma would have us in bad shape. A couple times we had them beat during those 5 years. The quarterback would scramble, he'd make a first down, scramble, buy some time, throw a pass. So we finally decided, you know, maybe we can learn something here. Maybe it's an opportunity to get better. And maybe what we need to do is recruit speed at quarterback. We did that, and things began to change. Didn't always beat them. We began to beat them our share, and pretty soon more than our share. And so that was important. There's a guy who lived about 250 years or 150 years ago. This guy was engaged to be married. His fiance died, young guy. He was depressed, got so depressed, he was actually bedridden for 2 years. Couldn't get out of bed. There was no medication, no way to treat it. Finally he recovered, started a business. That failed. Then he applied to law school, was rejected. Started another business, that failed. Then, like a lot of people who don't do well in business, went into politics. He lost his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth elections in a row. And of course that guy was Abraham Lincoln. And the important thing about it was that he obviously didn't quit. He obviously didn't point the finger. Through every one of those failure experiences, he endured it, he learned something from it, and he moved through it. And so what I'm saying to you is, I guess the thing that I learned over a lot of years of coaching, that the only positive outcome when things go bad is if you can look at it as an opportunity to learn something. If you lose your job, you know, or if you lose a spouse, or if something really bad happens, it's really easy to say that, but it's hard to do it, you know. But it is the only thing that ever seems to make a difference.